Hello, everybody, and welcome to Planet SkyFF, the world where everything revolves around £50,000. My name's Serge.
Jesus, that's going to be an awful start on the video.
I tell you what it is. For people are confused as to why there was like a moment's silence before we start recording. Normally, there's a thing. Recording started. I was just waiting for the woman with the robotic voice in my ear to say that your podcast has started recording. It didn't happen, and I was like, "Oh, we are recording, James. Are we any closer to £50,000 so we don't have to? We can just, not
No.
worry about the robotic voice woman."
No, it's gone. I can't win it.
Nice.
What about you? Well, it's not nice.
I'm 2,600 before the game week started. I'm still 2,600. For all you Sky Fantasy Football players, we are going to be reviewing the latest match week, probably one of the most interesting ones when you come out of Overhaul, just to see how you're set up. I think the biggest thing that I can take away, James, as a blessing, is that in the 10 matches since Overhaul, only one of my players is injured. Because it was the biggest fear that you come out of it and everybody's got flags, and then you're firefighting and using your transfers to fix problems rather than make aggressive transfer moves. So it's only Ilkay Gundogan that I've got that is injured now.
To be honest, I wouldn't be bothered if I did have an injury. It'd just make decisions easy. Gundogan for me will stay unless he's definitely ruled out of Sunday, which it looks like they're going to leave him out the Everton game this evening just as a precaution. So I imagine he'll probably be back for the Arsenal game. To be honest, even if he's back for the week after, because I wouldn't captain him this on Sunday. I'd still keep him. I think it's just not worth the two transfers for the in and out. And his ownership's monster, right? 92.8% in the top 1,000. Means there's only 72 managers in the top 1,000 that don't own him. And congratulations to all those who were brave enough to stick the armband on him on Saturday. Me and Suj made the wrong captaincy choice this week. But before, should we clarify who we actually picked on the Overhaul, Suj?
Yeah, indeed. So I've ended up with 105 points, which I think is okay considering I only went with 5 City. I went with Nick Pope in goal. I liked his fixtures, and I always had an eye that I'll move from Pope to Martinez when there's a little bit of a fixture swing advantage and when I know what's happening with the rearrangements and double game weeks and so on. So Pope in goal. Stones and Cancelo, I think, are pretty obvious. Rudiger came in for me for the Chelsea coverage. He'll give me a captaincy, and then I'll move him on to Dunk. Vestergaard and Dallas were the other two defenders that I went with. Dallas had a great -2 pointer. Vestergaard 1 pointer. They've been doing me well. Gundogan and Foden were my two midfielders from Manchester City. Bruno Fernandes and Marcus Rashford, and then Raheem Sterling. I like the look of the next 2 fixtures for Marcus Rashford. And with the number of transfers that I had in hand, 19, I felt like I could move away from him. So that was a punt that I took and failed so far. Let's hope he goes mental against Newcastle. 6.2 million in the bank, James. 19 transfers left. Overall rank 2,600 and something.
110 points for me for the week. Not great, but not great because of captaincy fails, basically. 4.5 million in the bank for myself, 15 transfers to go. I went with 7 City, the same 7 City that I'd suggested I would on last Wednesday's podcast: Ederson, Stones, Cancelo, Diaz, Gundogan, Rodri, Sterling. I went with Fernandes and Bamford. As said, the two that changed for me was I had Ward-Prowse and Jorginho. Changed that to Vestergaard and Rudiger. Captaincy is what's let me down this week. I went with Sterling. In the end, I think we obviously both did. We had a feeling that Cancelo wouldn't play. I was thinking about Sterling against Matt Doherty and went, yep, please, I'll have some of that. Can see him going off big time, actually. Monday, I went with Rudiger, who obviously lost out to Azpilicueta. Sterling lost out to basically every other Manchester City asset, bar probably Phil Foden. And on the Sunday, I was intending to go for Bruno Fernandes. But I would say I missed the deadline, not because I forgot about it, but because I was like, shit, Southampton and Wolves have started. Assumed I had the captaincy on Bruno Fernandes, went and checked, and it was on Bamford. I don't know how that happened. A few of the patrons said on our Slack channel that they believed that the captaincy skipped to Leeds players on Sunday in a few instances because they hadn't given points to Tottenham players on the Saturday. And in the update, it seems to have jumped a few captaincies. But I'm not blaming the game. It's my own fault for not checking. there's no way that I'm not captaining Bruno Fernandes against West Bromwich Albion. So
Yeah.
it is what it is.
Are you generally happy coming out of Overhaul with the choices you made and the direction you're going in?
To be honest, yeah, there's nothing from the Overhaul selections that I particularly regret. It's obviously what happens to us captaincy over the weekend. I wouldn't have rather gone Azpilicueta over Rudiger personally. I know Azpilicueta's ownership's massive, but it was very short term for me. And there was always a consciousness in my mind that they could switch to a 4, and in which case there would be a little bit of doubt on Azpilicueta. So I didn't feel it was worth taking any form of chance there for similar reasons like not going Antonio. I know there was a few people, obviously, I think it was about 14 or so people that sold Antonio Monday night.
Yeah.
And you think, it just wasn't worth the risk of starting with, unfortunately. Could have been a great upside, but it just wasn't worth it, in my opinion. So to be honest, if I go back to Friday and pick the same team again, I probably would have. I probably would have. I mean, I may even captain Sterling again tonight. I haven't quite decided yet, but that might be the way I decide. I mean, City captaincy tonight, crapshoot on rotation and shit.
Yeah, I think I might go with Foden, to be honest with you.
That sounds like a big risk.
Sterling over Foden, Sterling could get dropped. I mean, Cancelo, Stones are my other alternatives. Actually, I'm going to just go with Nick Pope. Done. Nick Pope at home to Fulham. Come on,
at the moment, I've got it bust on John Stones. So don't see why he would come out. I think passing tiers against Everton are a certainty. Does Diaz definitely come back in? You assume so, right? But none of us are in a position to know that he's actually well enough. Could it be Diaz and Laporte tonight and Stones misses out? Is there a chance Walker plays and Cancelo gets a break? We know Gundogan won't play. Rodri, I don't want to captain. I might even go Sterling again. I really haven't decided. At the moment, I've got it bust on John Stones for tonight because I think there's a certainty on passing tiers. And I assume Jordan Pickford's not back. And weirdly, Everton seem much worse on corners with Olsen in goal.
I'm gonna stick with Pope. I think actually looking at it tonight, just because I know he's going to play and it's safe and it's Fulham at home. I know Ben Mee's not playing, but I'm going to back Burnley here.
Well, that's why a lot of people go Edison.
Safe,
I would just look at it and go, it's 9 points or 2 points. It's not what I want. It's not what I want.
It's not what you need either right now.
Well, there is that. The chance of Edison being the highest scoring Man City player tonight are slim. I mean, he's because of the assist, he ended up with a 14-pointer on Saturday, but he still wasn't the best choice, right? Gundogan's done him over. So the chance of Edison ever being the best choice is unlikely, unless there's a game where you think he's going to have more to do in terms of shots, but still maintain the confidence of a clean sheet, which seems unlikely in most cases. That's not really who I want to be sticking the armband on. But I could get people doing that tonight, because I think from those 6 City players, obviously we know Gundogan's not going to play now, which they're the main ones. A few others like yourself have got Foden. Any of them could get rotated tonight, I think. It's not easy at all. Not easy at all. I think I'll be Stones, Diaz or Sterling. I would like to put it on Cancelo, but I'm a little bit fearful on that.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about Laporte and Diaz tonight. Maybe Laporte plays at left back and Kyle Walker comes back at right back. Or
it's possible.
I mean, this is the thing, right? So I think I'm going to stick safe and go with Nicholas Pope. We now know the FA Cup fixtures and dates and when the quarterfinals are going to be played. What's the impact on Sky fixtures and that kind of thing? Any additional cheeky little 2-for-1s, 3-for-2s, 4-for-1s, anything come out of the woodwork, James, that we need to discuss and let the listeners know?
Well, not yet and not clearly, because we need that announcement from the Premier League, which we expect to get in the next 48 hours or so. Could even, in theory, be today. The FA Cup quarter-final fixtures were announced on Monday. What that means in terms of match week 29, FPL's blank game week, if you will, we can say with certainty that if they schedule the fixtures now, West Ham and Arsenal will be on a Sunday. I think we say with about 98% confidence that Aston Villa and Tottenham's going to get added to that weekend. That's also going to be a Sunday. So if you're on Kane, that'll cover you off for the Sunday. And the way the FA Cup fixtures have fallen means the other two, one's likely to be a Friday and one's likely to be a Saturday, which is Fulham versus Leeds and Brighton versus Newcastle. One's probably going to be a Friday night. One's probably going to be late on a Saturday night. That's how it looks at the moment. It is possible they could both be the Saturday. One of them could be 3 o'clock. They could decide to go up against one of the FA Cup games, but I find that unlikely. I'm of the thinking that probably Sky is going to have four of those games. They won't be bothered going up against it, but I feel like the TV companies are working quite hard together at the moment from a scheduling perspective. It's in their own benefit, really, to just avoid each other. So Leeds coverage and probably a Brighton is what you're going to want there to obviously cover you off for the Friday, Saturday, which adds to the appeal of Brighton Monday night, which I've decided pre-overhaul. My intention, as I've mentioned last week, was the idea of going Rudiger to Lewis Dunk. That's still my plan on Monday night. So the match week with a midweek that's blank at the moment, the 2nd, 3rd and 4th of March, my expectation at the moment is that we'll have Manchester City and Wolves on the Tuesday. That's likely to be the only game that night. I think on the Wednesday, we're possibly looking at Burnley versus Leicester, Liverpool versus Chelsea, and Crystal Palace versus Manchester United. So, I mean, if you've got Bruno, that'll cover you off. You don't need to worry about that too much. And my expectation at the moment, and it's my prediction, and there are a few different options, that Thursday would be Tottenham against Southampton and Aston Villa against Everton. Villa and Everton could also have midweek fixtures added on the 9th or 10th of March and the 16th or 17th of March. Expect Manchester City against Southampton to also be on Wednesday the 10th. There are a few possibilities, but I think probably the main thing is that midweek of the 2nd, 3rd, 4th is unlikely to cause alarm from a captaincy perspective, but it probably will trigger a number of things in terms of transfers. So if Villa play on that Thursday and then have the other rearranged fixture that they have, Sheffield United, added to, say, the 16th and 17th, they're going to have 5, possibly even 6 for twos. And that's kind of movement then from City to Villa and so on. So there's a few triggers depending on what those fixtures turn out to be in terms of what kind of moves most people are going to want to make. We need to wait for the confirmation because as it stands, Villa could play Sheffield United on the Wednesday rather than, say, Everton on the Thursday. Everton would have to be the Thursday because they play Southampton in that single game week on the Monday. Unless that moves back to a Saturday, which is possible. If it does, by the way, I think it's Brighton West Brom on the Monday, but I do think that's a very small probability. So we need to wait for that, and that's why I can't do long-term planning yet till I've seen those fixtures. It might be we even have them later today, and then I think I can formulate a proper plan right up to April then.
Yeah. For that game week 29 FPL blank game week, Brighton Newcastle fixture. To be honest, none of the fixtures actually worry me because I've got Dallas to cover me off. Leeds Fulham. I will own Lewis Dunk that will cover me off Brighton Newcastle if that's a single game day. It's actually the West Ham Arsenal and Tottenham Villa games that I have no coverage of, but by the time we get there, I will definitely have Harry Kane and I will definitely have some Villa coverage. So if those are the Sunday games, then I'm pretty comfortable that I'll be able to cover off all 3 of those match days when we get to it. So it's not a huge concern for me at the moment.
Yeah, my intention is still to go Dunk for the 2 games, Crystal Palace and West Brom, and then potentially move straight to Harry Kane with the money in the bank on Sunday the 28th when Tottenham play Burnley. That's still my thinking at the moment. But there's certain things in the fixtures that could skew this. I might end up buying Mo Salah this Saturday, for example. That's not my plan, but it might be something in the fixtures that swings that for me. The dirty day for me, as I suggested to the patrons on the pod we recorded on Friday, is Saturday the 6th of March. Could get quite ugly for me. So you've got Brighton against Leicester. If I've sold Dunk, no coverage. Burnley against Arsenal, no coverage. City against United could be the Saturday 5:30. It's also quite likely to be the Sunday 4:30. I would suggest is probably the more
prime
likely
time slot.
Yeah, it's going to be one or the other. I think the Sunday's possibly more likely. Liverpool against Fulham, currently no coverage. West Brom against Newcastle, no coverage. West Ham against Leeds, I would have the cover of Patrick Bamford, but then that's all I would maybe have on that Saturday. And the scary bit about that is Friday the 5th. If the fixtures turn out the way I think they do on the 2nd, 3rd and 4th, there's only 2 fixtures that can go on Friday the 5th. And that's West Brom versus Newcastle. Yikes, skip that. Or West Ham versus Leeds, in which case you'd want something, and in which case I would have Patrick Bamford. But if West Ham Leeds is the Friday, there's a good chance then I've got nothing on the Saturday. So I can't make the long-term planning till I really know what's happening with the fixtures. And I think a lot of those I've mentioned there, of those 5 or so fixtures, are likely to stay on the Saturday, because there's a few we can, if the fixtures again plan out the way we expect, we could probably lock Tottenham versus Crystal Palace into the Sunday, for example, to go with the Manchester derby. Sheffield United and Southampton would be a Sunday. Everton and Chelsea would then be a Sunday or a Monday. So it's until we get the 2nd, 3rd and 4th fixtures, I can't really determine what's happening from the 5th onwards, because there are multiple possibilities. That Friday the 5th, I mean, if it's West Brom Newcastle, that's just a skip, mate, I think.
Yeah. Let's look at our captaincy coverage for the upcoming week as well. We've got Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and then the following Tuesday night football with the Leeds Southampton game as well.
I thought you were going full Craig David then, mate.
So on Friday, Wolves versus Leeds. You have Patrick Bamford. I'm assuming it's a simple one for you.
Yeah, Patrick Bamford for me.
Stuart Dallas for me will tick that box nicely.
I think Dallas could be a really interesting one for Friday night if you've got, because to be honest, against Wolves, even in a midfield position, there's a possibility he could hit some passing and tackles here. 21.9% owned in the top 1,000, Stuart Dallas, but Patrick Bamford at 69.6%. I think that means if you've got, you that's probably the way you're going. Rafinha, 27.2% has turned out more than I thought in the top 1,000. Great value at 6.8. If their fixtures work out in a certain way, and I have injuries from the City game tonight, I wouldn't rule out adding him at his price, because midfield's so shitty, isn't it? And if Guardiola comes out tonight and says, "Oh, Gundogan's out for a month," then there's a choice to make. Then, isn't there? Do I drop down to someone like Rafinha? Do I go to Jack Grealish, which is probably my plan, really? Or the money's there to go straight to KDB, 0% owned, and rightly so, in the top 1,000, who apparently is travelling to Goodison tonight. We don't expect him to start.
We have a number of options on the Saturday. I think a lot of people that have Salah at home to Everton might consider Mo Salah. I don't own any Liverpool assets, so for me, it's a choice of Nick Pope at home to West Brom or Rudiger away at Southampton. I think I'm going to favour Nick Pope at home to West Brom over Rudiger. But I'd like to see how Burnley perform tonight without Ben Mee. If Ben Mee's going to be back for the West Brom game, then definitely I think I'll be going with Nick Pope. A lot of people are piling into Danny Ings, like you're talking about getting Danny Ings in FPL. If you're backing Danny Ings in FPL, it also makes it quite difficult to then back Rudiger in Sky for a clean sheet.
Oh, I can live with that. That shit doesn't bother me. Although Danny Ings is another player that I could well buy on Saturday. But I think even if I did, I would probably still go Rudiger at the moment as captaincy on Saturday. I think that's what I'd still likely to do. If Southampton have a game on Thursday the 4th, which is more likely to be Tottenham, then have the City game added on the 10th to 2 extra fixtures, I could well add Danny Ings. It's really dependent on that, but I could well add Danny Ings. I think I'm more likely to add Danny Ings if I go down that route, either when they play Leeds on the 23rd or when they play Everton on the 1st, rather than steam into it this Saturday if I'm not going to captain him. I think I will probably go Rudiger on Saturday. My alternative choice is Vestergaard. I'll likely go Rudiger. I think best choice is Salah. And then Nick Pope. I would prefer you captaining Nick Pope on Saturday than tonight, because I think Ben Mee will be back for Saturday by the sounds of what they're saying.
Yep. On the Sunday, quite a few tasty games on Sunday. West Ham, Tottenham, Villa, Leicester, Arsenal, Manchester City, and then Manchester United versus Newcastle. By default, off that fixture list, Bruno Fernandes leaps off the page, but I do think City will beat Arsenal. I think Harry Kane scores against other London clubs as well. So I don't know how. The reality is, based on the fact that he's 99.9999% recurring owned, Bruno Fernandes is the safe option.
I have a sneaky feeling that Newcastle might get something at Old Trafford on Sunday. I'm not suggesting they go down and win, but I think they could come away from the game with a draw, actually. I think the way they're setting up with a diamond at the moment will make it quite difficult for Bruno to get on the ball. And United are quite weak when they're forced to give the ball constantly to the fullbacks, because Wan-Bissaka he can be a bit sloppy on the ball. Luke Shaw's improved quite a lot, but I think Newcastle would be quite happy if United are swinging crosses into the box from wide positions. I think that would be part of their strategy. That said, as kind of proven at the weekend, I've dropped points at West Brom. Bruno still got a 13-pointer. It's so difficult to look beyond him in a fixture like that. So yes, I will make sure that it's on him this week. Although having had it go against me, there is a temptation in me to go, fuck it, I will go with a City player at Arsenal, but I can't see me doing that. I'm pretty sure it'll be Bruno Sunday.
Monday night?
My intention is to buy Lewis Dunk for Rudiger. That's subject to change on fitness potentially of other players and also potentially what Chelsea's outlook for fixtures may look like. So, I mean, for example, if they suddenly land with West Bromwich Albion on Friday the 12th or Monday the 15th, then I'm really interested in. That's not Chelsea's fixtures. Sorry, Leeds on Friday the 12th is a possibility. Everton Monday the 8th. Then I'm probably inclined to want to keep Rudiger, and I'm looking at moving something else. But the intention is to buy Lewis Dunk. It's 12.4% owned in the top 1,000 at the moment. That will increase definitely on Monday. He is the standout choice. You could save a little bit money by obviously going for Webster or White. Apologies, Paul McNulty, for mentioning his name out loud. But you're doing really well, Paul, so I feel like I can at the moment. But I'll be going Dunk. I don't need to save that money at the moment. And if it's going to be really short term, where I'm possibly going for the 2 games and then going to Harry Kane on Sunday the 28th, then I feel like just go with the best player. The added bonus for Dunk is the opponent, Palace. We've highlighted their statistics. Failed to score in 16 of their last 20 games when Wilfried Zaha hasn't played. They have had a dip in possession stats recently, Brighton, but were better against Villa. Palace, we know, don't press, so there's a good chance that Dunk will get them in that anyway. And also, Palace are not defending set pieces well at all at the moment. And Dunk is the biggest threat from them, no doubt about it. So I will be very surprised if I don't buy Lewis Dunk on Monday.
I'm with you on that as well. Palace were not good against Burnley last week, and I didn't see anything that gives me any fear about going defensive with Brighton. So Lewis Dunk is the one for me. And then Leeds, Southampton, I've got Vestergaard and Stuart Dallas. So it's going to be an interesting one on who I decide to go with.
I'd be very tempted to go Vestergaard, I think. In that particular fixture, because you'd think on the set pieces, wow. But I wouldn't expect...
But Dallas plays higher up the pitch.
Well, there is that. That could change depending on fitness of certain Leeds players. Obviously,
I think my decision will be based on who's fit. At Arsenal.
Yeah. Could be. I'd be Bamford for me with that. I think that game could be a great game, that one next Tuesday.
I almost feel like if Calvin Phillips is not playing, then Vestergaard becomes more of an interesting option. If he is playing, then Dallas might become more of an interesting option. It's going to be an interesting one.
Just bear in mind, because it's worth me warning about deadlines. Although that's the only fixture next Tuesday, do remember it is a 6 o'clock kickoff, not an 8 o'clock. Just bear that into your thinking.
And make sure your captains are set. You never know, they might jump around. So
make sure your captains are set.
Should we look at some of the questions that we had on Twitter? Let's see what the talking points are and what people are curious about when it comes to Sky. Let me pull it up here. The Sky, we have 12 questions. Nice. Let's start at the top. Rob Pick. Assuming that everyone is fit, which City assets are the ones you are most likely to move away from first? Can I just go first? Sterling,
yeah, of course you can.
Foden. Assuming Gundogan is fit. I mean, if Gundogan's injured for a month, then Gundogan clearly. But I don't see the defensive ones moving on. So I think it'd be Sterling, just because I want to get Salah and Kane into the team, and he's obviously quite expensive. And then Foden, because I'd want to get Grealish in, and they're similar price points.
Sterling, Rodri, Ederson would probably be the 3 in order. For me, I definitely see Sterling probably being the first one going. It's a lot of money for a player that you're not going to regularly captain, although I could yet do it again tonight. I don't know if I want to get my fingers burnt like that again. It's almost definitely him to go first to facilitate Watkins, Calvert-Lewin, someone like that who, fixture-wise, is probably going to suddenly appeal quite nicely for a lot of people. Rodri, I've obviously jammed the penalty at the weekend. But I wouldn't be thinking, oh, great, he hits past and tackle tiers, he's now on penalties. A, judging by Guardiola's comments, he may well not take the next one. B, if he does, I'd expect him to bloody miss it, judging by how shit that penalty was on Saturday. So I wouldn't get excited about that. The treble up defensively, Stones, Cancelo, Diaz, I want to keep. Gundogan, I mean, if he's fair, he just can't move at the moment. It's too good from a value perspective as well, right? The game would be pricing him up at like 3 million more next season if they were doing it now, or based on this form. We know that this form's not going to last forever, but it's a position we've had so many problems with this season. 8.2 million. People are going to be adding to him, not selling him, I don't think. I would hold. My personal view on it is, even if he misses tonight and Arsenal, I'll still keep him, I think.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Benny Blanco asks...
I know he's a player I want to keep. That's the difference.
Benny Blanco asks if Kevin De Bruyne is an option for you now he's back again. Potentially a really good differential. I don't doubt that. I won't be going to Kevin De Bruyne tonight because I don't think he's going to start and get enough minutes. If he gets any minutes, comes off the bench today, or there's any inclination that he is going to be ready for Arsenal, I may get him on the Sunday against Arsenal. I may just make that move because of the number of transfers I have and how far behind I am. Getting Kevin De Bruyne in and just sticking the armband on him could be a big differential. So he's very much on the radar for me. Could be just a straight Foden replacement. I've got enough money to do it. So
very unlikely to be in my thinking, Kevin De Bruyne. I'm just going to avoid it, I think. There's other City players at the moment, from their value perspective, look very capable of matching him. So I think it won't be for me. Amazing differential. And obviously, if it works out for you. But he's still, no matter what you think in terms of what they've done in his absence, he's still absolutely crucial to them. And they'll want to take care of him. So the amount of fixtures coming up and the price, not for me.
Depends on your personal circumstance, I guess, is the thing. Everyone has the weigh up where you are. Benny's quite high up in the rankings. So for him, it could be, if you are, say, 20th or 30th in the game overall, a KDB punt could take you to number 1, but it could also take you down to number 100. So have a think. I think right now is an interesting time, though, because even if you drop to around 100, you still got enough time to make it back up and get up there. So Carl JB, Pope, with me out now of the Fulham game, should I stand down my planned captaincy and just go with one of Cancelo, Diaz, Stones, Rodri, Sterling would be the alternative? The reason we've talked about this, the reason I'm going to stick with Pope is because of the certainty that he's going to play, as opposed to whether or not I think he'll outscore the others. All of those that you mentioned could be rotated. Rodri probably the least likely, but all the others could be rotated. So I'm going to stick with Pope, but if you've got bigger cojones than me, crack on.
Tonight feels bad for City in terms of rotation. Of the 7 players I've got, I mean, obviously Gundogan's out. The other 6, they could all start. And I know that probably at least 4 of them start. But, I mean, you would think he goes back to Stones and Diaz. But again, we don't know what Diaz, was his illness that bad? Or they just decide, you know what, a little 1-week break's going to be good for you? Does he look at it and go, Everton likely without Calvert-Lewin, is this a good game to give Stones a break? Rodri, I would think definitely plays, but even in spite of that potential of the penalties, that's not who I want to be putting the armband on. So I think I'm going to go Stones or Sterling. I really haven't decided yet. I think I'll end up going Stones, but honestly, I could change my mind on that. I'm hoping someone gives me a tip off that's actually correct this week. That would be beneficial. Because I'm worried about that tonight. And I think for those with Pope, I can understand why you'd make that move. But then I'll think about it again and I go, well, if that's the case, why wouldn't I just go for Ederson? I do know that Ederson's going to play. I'd fancy them for a clean sheet in any game against anyone at the moment. And with Ben Mee absent, that's a concern, I think, for Nick Pope captainers tonight. You only have to look at Burnley's results in the first 6-7 games this season, and it literally instantly changes to clean sheets the second Ben Mee came back in the team. They have a 2-pronged problem that Kevin Long's not good enough, but not only that, but it means that Tarkowski has to go and play left-sided centre-half, which affects him badly as well. So they're not just changing one centre-half, they're effectively changing 2. It's not good for them. But it's Fulham, so they could still keep a clean sheet.
I'm going to stick with Pope. Ron at Mince at SkyFF. We've answered this, James, but I'll just give him a shout out. Knowing Brighton have one confirmed single match day and another one or two predicted, would you bring in Dunk to cover captaincy or just skip Brighton altogether and add another Man City defender? For me, I'll be getting Dunk in because it is Palace and I think he could do particularly well. And so many people have so many City defensive coverage already. So, yeah, for me, Dunk is worth it. And I know for you, you're thinking the same.
Yeah, I'm going to go in, as I mentioned as well when talking about Southampton's fixtures, should Everton Southampton get moved back to Saturday to facilitate the idea of having two games on Tuesday the 2nd, which I don't think will happen. But if it does, and if they want to replace the Everton Southampton fixture with a different game on the Monday, he's almost certainly going to be Brighton against West Brom. So there's possibly that to add in. Now, listen, we'll know about that almost certainly before Brighton and Palace kicks off, if that was to be the case. Looking further ahead, Leicester's going to be Saturday, Sunday, Monday. There's a number of games that could be that Monday as it stands. And in the following week, they play Southampton. Friday night fixture for them is very unlikely because they play Southampton play Manchester City, we think, on the Wednesday before that. Monday remains a possibility. But again, there's a number of other fixtures that could be the Monday. The Newcastle one, you're highly likely to want some coverage for. So I think from a captaincy perspective, you're probably looking at Palace and Newcastle, both at home, with the possibility, small possibility of West Brom and a possibility that the other two as well. It's not beyond reason that they could have 5 single game days in a row. But I'd put that at like 0.5% possibility.
Phantom Mantle and Mick Byram, are asking similar questions that we've already had about who to captain out of City and KDB. Amrabat Manjou.
I think you just got to go. You got to go with your instinct tonight.
Yeah.
If they all play, then Cancelo for me is the best choice. But I'm worried about that tonight.
Amrabat Manjou. This is not a question, James, but just a reminder for Suj to please message James an hour before deadline to make sure he has checked his captain. Sky reminder incoming at 5 p.m. today, James. Matt Stewart, do you think...
Fuck you, Joe, but I did deserve
it. Do you think the transition from the City block, who to get and when, will be the difference on who wins Sky this year? We did talk about it being Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, and he hasn't had a mention despite scoring a hat-trick at the weekend. Nor will he. But it used to be Aubameyang that was going to dictate who wins Sky. Is it really how we move away from this City block? Or the person that has the nerve to stick with the City block while they tear it up?
Take last week. I think it kind of started 2 weeks ago looking at the overhaul and going, you're probably going to need 3 or 4 City again. We spoke about it and went, once I cover this, that and the other, I'll probably only have 3 or 4 City anyway. Then it gets closer and it felt like a wave of people like, I'm going to need at least 5 here. And those who were strong enough and brave enough going, 7. I saw a few people go with 8 City players. And to be honest, you can only really judge if that's the right decision after the game tonight, actually, rather than what happened over the weekend, because you're getting the extra game, obviously, this evening. What's the question?
It was more, could the transition away from City...
the transition moving away. Yeah, what I was going to say is...
Be the differential maker on who wins and who doesn't.
Well, if the fixtures work the way I think they're going to work, then I think it will be so easy that people will want to power into Aston Villa, get a little bit of Everton, possibly a little bit of Leicester, maybe, definitely a bit of Tottenham. It's going to be obvious. So to be honest, everybody's going to want to know and make similar moves. And it might be something daft at that point where you go, yeah, do you know what, sod it, I'm going to go Barkley instead of Grealish, and Barkley performs really well. That's going to be like, that's a bad example, but it's that sort of thing that might be the difference maker for you over that period. Because I think once these fixtures get announced, it's very quickly formulate what people's ideas are going to be, and they're all going to be similar again. And I'm pretty sure that it's going to be, I'm going to power in some Aston Villa. It's going to be a lot of the thinking.
So while we, a couple more questions, while we try and break away from that thinking, James, FPL Dempsey, last week I mentioned we could be overlooking teams like Arsenal or Leicester. Of those two teams, which players are looking like the best long-term assets? Would you say Leno maybe at Arsenal?
No.
But they don't have the fixtures.
No, I'd rather Leicester.
Saka.
What?
Barnes.
To be honest, of all the ownership numbers in the top 1,000, the one that really surprised me, I'd say more than anyone, was Harvey Barnes. Only 4 people in the top 1,000 went with Harvey Barnes. They're likely to have, obviously, they've got Villa to come this Sunday, which is a potential entry point if you have any issues. Arsenal the following Sunday, you'll get the team for that as well. Then I think probably Burnley on the Wednesday, then Brighton, then Sheffield United, then a blank, and then they've got Manchester City on the other side. But Harvey Barnes might cover off a couple of captaincy issues. We can't see it right now, but quite quickly, Leicester's fixtures against Brighton and Sheffield United from weekend commencing the 5th and the 12th could suddenly land and look like the best captaincy options. I mean, Leicester against Sheffield United is going to be Sunday the 14th or Monday the 15th. It probably does anyway look like the best option. But obviously, if it's the Sunday, Arsenal Tottenham's going to be that day, and the worst case scenarios are, okay, stick the armband on Kane. If it's the Monday, there'll be a lot of interest in Leicester will suddenly come up. And I think he's the one I'd favour at the moment because of the potential for him to add the shot tiers onto what he's doing as well.
Yeah. And last question goes to FPL Fish. There were a couple other questions, Danny Thomas and so on, but they're both the same. What to do with Gundog? And we're going to roll with Gundog. FPL Fish, though, says, other than the single game day players, which player do you wish you would have chosen on Overhaul?
There isn't one as such, but I think maybe, to be honest, it's him. Harvey Barnes could well have found the room for that. But I look at that in hindsight and go, City's 2 games or Leicester against Liverpool. And to be honest, there's a lot of teams that are playing. I mean, there's a few teams playing 3 times before Leicester play their second game, for example. And I look at that in retrospect and no regrets. The reason, honestly, I think if I go back to Friday, I pick the same team. I don't think it would have been a lot different. And from that point of view, you'd be quite satisfied. The only other one maybe would be had I started with Lewis Dunk rather than Vestergaard in the first instance. But I'm pretty sure at some point I'm going to need that Southampton coverage. Looking even beyond into early April, looking at Southampton's fixtures there and going, there's going to be some dirty single game days there. I'm certain of it. And that's why he was picked as kind of a sit in and leave him now.
Yeah,
and his ownership was much higher than I anticipated. Vestergaard was about 40% in the top thousands, 41%. Jumped much higher than I anticipated that to be for Vestergaard.
Yeah, there's no one that I'm looking at thinking I'd wish I'd gotten, but there is a player that I wish I didn't get, and that's Marcus Rashford. Although I can't judge it till after the Newcastle game because I did look at the 2 fixtures together. If he pops in a hat-trick against Newcastle, it's kind of job done really with Marcus Rashford. But he's poking the needle in me from both sides, FPL and Sky at the moment. He's in both teams and he's not performing as he should. He's not delivering the points that he should be. So Marcus Rashford's one that I regret. Where I would go, I don't know. Whether I'd push him back towards a midfielder or a striker, an alternative in Watkins or something like that. But that's my one Overhaul regret at the moment.
Have you got any thoughts to captain Rashford this Sunday against Newcastle rather than Bruno?
No, because of Bruno's ownership. It's just too risky to go. If they were both at like 30 to 40% ownership and they were both similar ownership, I'd go for it. But the fact that Bruno's at 99 point whatever, just having a look, 99.8% in the top 1,000. Rashford's at 1.1. Can't justify.
It's worth saying as well, the City players, I think because of that, if you can identify the right Manchester City player on Sunday away to Arsenal, I don't mind anyone who wants to go down that route.
Yeah, City are captainable any given day.
The problem is when you don't captain Bruno Fernandes, you might as well not own him, as kind of I found out on Sunday, because that stopped me staying at same rank or having an effective red arrow, basically. There's almost no point having him if you're not going to sit the armband on him. And that's not to say if you decide to captain a City player this week that you should definitely sell him. But you know what the risk is, right? He's going to be massively captained again. Newcastle's the opponent. Most people are not going to blink at that.
Indeed. There we go. There's a rundown of your captains, your transfers, and all of the Twitter questions as well. James, anything else to add for the listeners from a Sky Fantasy Football point of view?
No, only just to pick up on what you said at the end there in terms of there's no point regretting. It's a little bit
Yeah, of
like me with the
course.
captaincy on Sunday. I can't change it. So you just get on. The worst thing I could do now is be on tilt and go, oh, fuck it. I'm not captaining Bruno this Sunday because of that then, or something like that. What's gone is gone. You can only make the rational decisions for what's to come. If you feel you made mistakes on your overhaul, you won't be alone. A lot of other people will feel like that. Just make sure you head in the right direction. There's little point in regretting the I got Rashford, perhaps I shouldn't have. Like you said, judge it after Newcastle. In your position, so you have to factor in that you've got transfers in hand compared to most
Exactly.
people.
That's the other thing as
So
well.
you could afford that risk.
Yes, indeed. There we go. If you are a keen Sky Fantasy Football player, you may want to consider our Patreon. You can head over to patreon.com/Planet FPL. The Sky Fantasy Football community within our Slack channel is quite active. A lot of very good managers in there who are in the top 100. There's at least 5 or 6, I think, that are in the top 100 in amongst that crew. And not only that, James produces a really helpful Sky Fantasy Football spreadsheet. We record additional podcasts, Sky Fantasy Football Extra Time, once a month or so, and especially around fixture announcements and overhauls and that kind of thing. So something you might want to consider. You can find more information at patreon.com/Planet FPL. What do we have tomorrow for the regular listeners, James? Part B, episode 34,
Clash of
part B or
correspondence,
something.
which
Yeah.
for patrons, yeah, Planet FPL 34. What am I talking about? Season 4, episode 32B. We'll be talking about the games that are obviously going to happen tonight. We'll have our game week preview on Friday. Tomorrow's Clash of the Correspondence, it's not Sky focused in any way, but we do talk about Wolves Leeds, so that might have some influence in terms of your captaincy decision for Friday. There'll be some pointers you can take out of that as well.
Indeed. So thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening. Make sure you're subscribed wherever you are listening to the podcast so you get notified as soon as we put new content out. And stay safe wherever you are. Ciao for now.
Thanks very much, everyone. Good luck this weekend. Cue music, please, man child.